The first time I realized something was off, I didn't actually realize it. It hit me like a shadow in the corner of my mind, but I brushed it off. That's the thing about signs. They don't always come with blinking lights. They're subtle. They sneak up on you when you're least expecting it. The day my life changed was a Wednesday, but not just any Wednesday. It was the Wednesday after my wife, Amelia, had gone silent for nearly 2 weeks. I knew she wasn't angry. I knew she wasn't upset. It was something deeper, something I couldn't put my finger on. When we'd first met, I was captivated by her quiet strength. She wasn't the type to throw tantrums or make a scene. She was calm, collected, but with a sharpness about her that I admired. But that sharpness? Over the last few months, it had dulled. She'd become quieter, more withdrawn. But it wasn't until I found the message that I started to understand. I'm not one to invade privacy, and I never had a reason to check her phone. I trusted her. Or at least I thought I did. I suppose I should have suspected something when she started leaving her phone face down on the kitchen counter, but I dismissed it. People get busy, I thought. No need to worry. But then one day, as I grabbed my keys from the hallway table, I noticed a piece of paper on the floor. A receipt, maybe? No, it was something else. I unfolded it slowly, my breath caught in my throat. It was a note, scribbled hastily in Amelia's handwriting. It wasn't meant for me. Not directly. It was a note to herself, and yet it felt like a message to me. I'm not sure how much longer I can pretend. I feel suffocated, trapped, and yet I don't know how to leave. If I don't, I might forget who I am. It was short, but it struck me to my core. Trapped? How could she feel trapped? We had a great life. At least, I thought we did. There were no major arguments, no big problems. Just small, gradual shifts that had gone unnoticed. I didn't confront her immediately. Part of me didn't want to. The other part, well, I wasn't sure what to do with that. I couldn't just ignore it, though. It wasn't a text from someone else or some harmless note. It was a cry for help, hidden in the folds of a scrap of paper. Amelia never talked like that. She wasn't one to dramatize things. This was real. The next few days were unbearable. I watched her, trying to catch any hint, any clue that would explain what was happening. She was still here, physically, but her presence felt different. Like the room was always empty when she was in it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing her. It wasn't until that Wednesday, the day after I found the note, that I finally had the courage to confront her. But the way she responded was nothing like I expected. I came home from work, the air heavy with something unspoken, something lingering. Amelia was sitting on the couch, staring out the window, as if the world outside was more interesting than whatever was happening inside our home. I cleared my throat, but she didn't even flinch. She didn't look up. "Amelia," I said, my voice softer than I wanted it to be. "We need to talk." She turned slowly, almost too slowly, as if the words I was about to say didn't matter to her. Her eyes met mine, but there was no warmth in them, no spark. Just a quiet, resigned emptiness. "What's going on?" I asked, taking a seat opposite her. "You've been distant for weeks now. What's happening?" She sighed, a sound filled with years of unspoken frustrations. Her eyes glazed over, and she stared at the floor before responding. "I don't know anymore, Max," she said quietly. "I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing here." Her words hit me like a slap, but I forced myself to keep calm. "What do you mean? You're here with me. That's what matters, right?" She shook her head, her lips trembling ever so slightly. "No, that's not enough. It hasn't been for a while now. I feel like I'm living someone else's life. This isn't what I imagined for myself. I'm suffocating." I swallowed hard. The note. It wasn't just some dramatic outburst. She had meant every word, every sentence. And in that moment, I realized that no matter how much I tried to fix things, it wasn't going to be enough. She had already decided. "What do you want, Amelia?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't answer me right away. She just sat there, staring at me, like she was trying to decide whether she should say the next words. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I think I need to be alone." And that was it. She didn't ask for a divorce. She didn't tell me she was leaving. But the implication was clear. She needed space, time to figure things out. And no matter how much I tried to reach out, to hold on, I knew in my heart that the person I once knew, my wife, the woman I thought I loved, was slipping away from me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I sat there, frozen, as Amelia stood up and walked out of the room. Her absence felt more real than anything she'd said. I didn't know it then, But that was the beginning of the end. The silence in our house grew louder after that conversation. At first, it felt like an uncomfortable quiet, like when you know something's broken, but you're not ready to admit it yet. But over time, that silence began to grow heavier, more suffocating. Amelia was there, physically, but mentally and emotionally, she was slipping further away from me. I could see it in the way she moved around the house, the way she interacted with me. There was no spark anymore, no connection. The first couple of days after our conversation were the hardest. I tried to give her space, tried to let her figure things out, but every time I saw her, sitting on the couch, her eyes lost in thought, staring out the window or into nothingness, my heart would tighten. I would tell myself, it's fine, she just needs time. But deep down, I knew the truth. Time was not what she needed. She was already somewhere else. I remember one evening, after dinner, I decided to ask her about the note. I had read it over and over, the words still echoing in my head. I feel suffocated, she had written. I don't know how to leave. It haunted me. What did she mean by that? Was there someone else? Was I that suffocating? I knew I needed answers. So I asked her. Sitting across from her at the kitchen table, I carefully placed the note between us. Amelia looked at it for a long time, her face unreadable. Why didn't you tell me? I asked quietly, trying to mask the hurt in my voice. She sighed, a soft exhale of frustration. I didn't know how to. I didn't know what I was feeling, Max. It's not like there's someone else. It's just, I'm lost. I don't even know who I am anymore. Her words felt like a punch in the chest. I wasn't expecting that. It wasn't about someone else. It wasn't about me doing something wrong. It was just her. Her searching for something she couldn't find within herself, something I couldn't give her. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what to say. We can figure this out, Amelia. Whatever it is, we'll fix it. You don't have to do this alone, I said, trying to hold on to the last threads of hope. She shook her head slowly, looking away. I don't know if I want to fix it. I don't know if I can. The words hung in the air between us, and I knew, in that moment, that something fundamental had shifted. It wasn't about fixing our problems anymore. It wasn't even about us anymore. It was about her and whatever was inside her that I couldn't reach. A week later, Amelia started sleeping in the guest room. It was subtle at first, just a change in routine. She'd say she was tired and needed some space. I told myself it was temporary, that she just needed her own space to think. But as the days turned into weeks, I realized this was no longer just a phase. It was a sign. She was pulling away, and I had no idea how to stop it. I started to notice small things, little habits that used to be familiar but now seemed foreign. Her side of the bed was always cold in the morning. The coffee she used to make for both of us, now just for herself. I would come home from work, and the house was eerily quiet. She'd be sitting in the living room, flipping through a book or scrolling on her phone, but it wasn't the same. There was no warmth in her smile when she greeted me, no energy in her voice when she asked me about my day. It was like she was there, but not really. I was no longer a part of her world. One afternoon, I came home early from work. I hadn't planned to, but something told me I needed to. I walked in through the door, expecting the usual emptiness. But this time, something was different. The door to the guest room was slightly open, and I could hear her voice. It wasn't loud, just soft whispers. At first, I thought maybe she was on the phone. But when I stepped closer, I realized she wasn't talking to anyone. I froze, standing outside the door, listening. I could hear her, talking to herself. I don't know if I can keep pretending. I'm not the person I used to be. I don't know who I am anymore. Her voice cracked on the last sentence, and I could hear the emotion in it, the rawness of her words. I didn't know what to do. Should I interrupt? Should I go in there and try to talk to her? But what could I possibly say? I didn't want to make things worse, but hearing her like this, so broken, so lost, it hurt more than anything else. I turned away from the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't do it. I couldn't fix it. No matter how much I wanted to, no matter how hard I tried. This wasn't something I could fix. Amelia had already made her decision. She was no longer the woman I knew, and I was just a bystander, watching her slip further away. That night, as I lay in bed alone, I stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything. The weight of it all felt unbearable. How had we gotten here? What had I missed? I kept asking myself these questions over and over, but I couldn't find the answers. The woman I had married, the woman I loved, She was slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't stop it. And then, the next morning, she said it. "I think we need to talk." The words were simple, but they hit me like a thunderclap. I didn't know it then, but that conversation would change everything. The moment she spoke those words, my stomach dropped. "I think we need to talk." It was the kind of sentence that carried so much weight, even though it seemed so simple. I had heard those words before, in different contexts, and they never meant anything good. I watched as Amelia stood in the doorway of the bedroom, her eyes avoiding mine. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She just looked resigned, almost like she had already made up her mind, like whatever she was about to say had been decided long before now. I felt a lump form in my throat, but I pushed it down. I couldn't show her how terrified I was. If I did, it would only make things worse. I nodded, slowly, and motioned for her to sit down. My heart was pounding in my chest. I had no idea what she was going to say, but I knew, deep down, that it wouldn't be anything good. "Amelia, whatever it is, you can tell me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We can work through this." She sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly together in her lap. She didn't look at me. Her gaze was fixed on the floor, and I could see the tension in her shoulders. It was like she was physically preparing herself for the words she was about to speak. "I've been thinking," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "About us. About everything. And I don't know how to say this without it sounding like I'm giving up. But Max, I don't think I can keep pretending." My chest tightened. "Pretending? What do you mean?" She finally looked at me then, her eyes tired, but there was something else there too. Something I couldn't quite place. Pain, maybe? Or was it just exhaustion from carrying this weight for so long? She took a deep breath before speaking again. "I've been unhappy for a long time, Max. Longer than I've been willing to admit. And the worst part is, I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I even want to fix it anymore." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My mouth went dry, and I had to swallow twice before I could respond. Are you saying you want to leave?" Amelia flinched, but not in the way I expected. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just looked at me with a blank expression, as if she were detached from her own feelings, as if she had already come to terms with whatever decision she had made. "I don't know," she said softly. "I don't know if I can leave you, but I don't know how to stay either." Her words hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. I wanted to say something, anything to make her feel like I was worth staying for. I wanted to beg her to stay, to promise I could change, to do whatever it took to fix things. But for some reason, I couldn't. I couldn't make myself beg. Instead, I sat there, frozen, as she continued. "I don't even recognize myself anymore, Max. I feel like a stranger in my own life. I've tried to pretend everything was fine for so long, but I'm suffocating. I'm drowning, and I don't know how to get out." I could see the tears in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. It was as if she had already cried all her tears, and there were none left. I wanted to reach out to her, to hold her, but I knew it wouldn't help. She had already made up her mind. "Do you love me, Amelia?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't help myself. I needed to know. Her eyes flickered with something. Guilt, maybe? Or was it just a fleeting memory of the love we once shared? But she didn't answer. She didn't need to. I knew the answer, just like she did. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know anymore." And that was it. That was the moment I understood. She wasn't just unhappy. She was gone. Her heart wasn't here anymore. It was like she had already checked out of the relationship, and I was the last to know. I sat there in silence, trying to process her words, but they wouldn't sink in. How could they? She was telling me that everything we had built, everything I thought we had, meant nothing to her anymore. How was I supposed to accept that? How could I just sit there and let her walk away without a fight? But the truth was, I was fighting the wrong battle. I wasn't fighting for her anymore. I was fighting for the version of her that had once loved me, the version of her that still believed in us. But that version was gone, and no amount of begging or pleading could bring her back. "I don't want to lose you," I said, my voice breaking. "Please, Amelia, don't give up on us." She closed her eyes, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of emotion in her. But it was gone as quickly as it came. "I don't know if I can keep pretending, Max. I'm sorry." And with that, she stood up. There was no dramatic departure, no slammed doors. She simply walked away, leaving me there, sitting on the bed, feeling like a ghost in my own life. The next few weeks were a blur. Amelia didn't move out. She didn't pack her things. She just existed in the house with me. There were no more late-night conversations, no more quiet moments shared over coffee. It was like we were strangers living in the same space. And every time I tried to bring up what was happening, she would shut down, her eyes distant, her answers cold and distant. I couldn't get through to her. And deep down, I knew I never would. I could feel the tension in the house like a thick fog, wrapping itself around me, suffocating me at every turn. Amelia and I coexisted under the same roof, but it wasn't the home we had once shared. There were no more small talks, no more teasing or inside jokes. The silence between us was so loud, I felt like I was drowning in it. It was strange, you know? She was still physically here, but emotionally, it was as if she had checked out long ago. It's like I could see her slipping away, her presence fading. And the worst part was, I couldn't figure out how to stop it. Every time I tried to talk to her, every time I reached out, it was like I was speaking to a wall. Her eyes would glaze over, her answers short and detached. I began to wonder if she had already started grieving the end of our marriage long before I had. One evening, I came home early from work, hoping for some miracle, some spark of connection, something that would break the silence between us. But when I walked into the house, I knew something was off. The air felt heavy, and the silence was louder than usual. I dropped my keys on the table, expecting to hear her voice or the sound of her moving around, but there was nothing. I called her name, but she didn't respond. Amelia? I called again, louder this time. She finally answered, but her voice was cold, distant. I'm in the kitchen. I walked toward the sound of her voice, but what I saw stopped me in my tracks. Amelia was standing at the counter, staring at the kitchen wall. She wasn't doing anything, just standing there. The light from the overhead lamp cast an eerie glow on her face, and for the first time, I saw something I couldn't ignore: defeat. Amelia? I asked softly, my voice tentative, unsure of what to say. What's going on? What's happening to us? She didn't look at me. I don't know, Max. I don't know how to explain it. I stepped closer to her, my heart pounding in my chest. You don't have to explain anything, Amelia. Just talk to me. Tell me what's going on in your head. We can fix this, whatever it is. We can. No, she interrupted, her voice hard, but tired. We can't fix it. There's nothing left to fix. The words hit me like a slap, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, trying to process what she was saying. What do you mean? I choked out. Why are you saying this? You're still here. We're still married. I'm still here, but I'm not the same person anymore, she replied, finally turning to face me. Her eyes were hollow, like she was seeing through me, not at me. And I don't think you are either. I could feel the tears threatening to spill, but I refused to let them fall. I had to stay strong, for her, for us. Amelia, please, I begged, my voice cracking. We can talk about this. We can try again. I don't want to lose you. But she just shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. You don't get it, do you? It's not about you. It's about me. I've lost myself, Max. I don't even recognize who I am anymore. And I don't think I can stay in this house, in this marriage, pretending everything is okay when it's not. The weight of her words crushed me. I had no idea she felt this way, that she was struggling so deeply, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had missed all the signs. Had I been so wrapped up in trying to keep everything together that I hadn't seen the cracks? Had I been so blinded by my own fear of losing her that I failed to notice her slipping away? I'm sorry, Amelia whispered, her voice barely audible. I don't know how to make this right. I don't know how to fix me. The vulnerability in her words pierced through me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw her, the real Amelia, standing before me. Not the woman who had been emotionally absent, but the woman who was hurting, who had been carrying a weight I didn't understand. But even though I saw her pain, I didn't know how to ease it. I didn't know how to save her when she didn't even want to be saved. I don't know if we can fix this, she continued, her voice shaking. But I can't keep pretending like nothing is wrong. I need space, Max. I need to figure out who I am without you, without us. The words cut through me, sharp and final. You want space? I asked, my throat dry. Is that it? You want to leave? I don't know, she whispered, looking away, her hands trembling. I can't breathe here anymore. I felt the floor beneath me give way, the world spinning as I tried to hold on to something, anything. But there was nothing left to hold on to. It was like I was clinging to a rope that was already slipping through my fingers. I can't lose you, Amelia, I said, my voice barely a whisper, a plea. Please, just don't leave me. But she was already backing away, her face a mixture of sadness and finality. I'm not leaving yet, Max. But I can't stay like this either. I don't know how much longer I can pretend everything's fine. And just like that, she was gone. She didn't storm off. She didn't yell. She didn't even cry. She just turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling more alone than I ever had before. The silence that followed was suffocating. I sat there in the kitchen, my mind racing, my chest tight with fear. How had we gotten here? What had happened to the love we once shared? And more importantly, what was I supposed to do now? Amelia wasn't the same woman who had walked into my life all those years ago. I had to face the harsh truth. I couldn't fix this. I couldn't fix her. And now, I wasn't even sure I knew who I was anymore, either. I could feel the walls closing in around me. The house felt colder now, like it had absorbed all the tension that had built up between us over the past few months. Amelia had said she needed space, but I wasn't sure how much longer I could live in this limbo. Every day felt like I was walking on a tightrope, balancing between hope and reality. I'd wake up every morning with the weight of her words from the night before hanging over me like a storm cloud. I need to figure out who I am without you. It was becoming clear that what we had wasn't enough anymore. I had hoped. No, I had prayed that this was just a phase, that once Amelia had time to herself, we could find our way back to each other. But as the days passed, I began to see how distant she truly was. Not just physically, but emotionally. There were no more small gestures, no more affection, no more laughter. Just the cold, monotonous rhythm of two people who had become strangers living together in a house that no longer felt like home. One evening, a few days after our last conversation, I came home to find the kitchen table set with dinner. For a moment, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe this was her way of trying again. She was sitting there, waiting for me. But as I walked in, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Her phone was sitting on the table, face up, and the screen was filled with messages. I wasn't the kind of person to invade her privacy, but as I walked past, one message caught my eye. The name on the screen was unfamiliar. We need to talk. Tonight. I can't keep doing this. The message was from someone I didn't recognize, and it wasn't a work message. It wasn't a friend. It was something else. My heart raced, and before I could stop myself, I picked up her phone. The next message was even more chilling. I know you feel the same way. It's just a matter of time before you leave him, Amelia. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking as I set the phone down, my mind racing. Who was this person? What was going on? Why hadn't she told me about this? The pieces were starting to fit together in a way I hadn't wanted to acknowledge. Was she having an affair? Was this the reason she had been so distant? I had to know, but I didn't want to confront her yet. I needed to calm down, to think this through. But when I looked at her, sitting there at the table, acting like everything was fine, like nothing had changed, it made the pit in my stomach grow even deeper. Amelia wasn't the same person anymore. The woman I had married, the woman I had loved, was slipping further away, and I didn't know how to stop it. I sat down at the table, trying to keep my composure, trying to act normal, but my mind kept going back to those messages. The silence between us felt unbearable. Finally, Amelia spoke, her voice soft but distant. Are you okay? She asked, looking at me but not really seeing me. You've been quiet. I forced a smile, trying to hide the storm that was raging inside me. Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired from work. She nodded, and for a brief moment, our eyes met. But it was different. There was no connection there anymore, no spark. I could see the walls she had built around herself, and I didn't know how to tear them down. After a long pause, she spoke again, this time in a voice that was barely above a whisper. I think it's time for us to have that talk. I could feel my heart beating faster. This was it. This was the moment I had been dreading. The moment that would either tear us apart completely or give us a chance to rebuild. What do you want to talk about? I asked, my voice unsteady. She took a deep breath, as if preparing herself for something. I think you already know. I can't keep pretending anymore. I've been seeing someone else. The words hit me like a freight train. I sat there, stunned, unable to process what she had just said. What? I managed to choke out. What do you mean? Amelia's gaze was steady, but her eyes were filled with guilt. I'm sorry, Max. I never meant for it to happen. But I've been seeing him for the past couple of months. He's someone I met through work, and it just happened. I didn't know how to stop it. I don't even know how to explain it. My chest tightened as I struggled to understand what she was saying. How long has this been going on? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated, guilt written all over her face. A few months. Since before I started pulling away from you. I didn't want to hurt you, Max. I didn't know how to tell you, but I can't keep living this lie. The room felt like it was closing in on me. I wanted to yell, to scream, to demand answers. But I couldn't. I was frozen, my mind reeling. Amelia was having an affair. The woman I had trusted more than anyone, the woman I had built a life with, had been seeing someone else behind my back. And I had no idea. I looked at her, trying to find any trace of the woman I once knew, but all I saw was a stranger sitting across from me. Why, Amelia? I finally asked, my voice hoarse. Why didn't you just leave me? Why did you stay and let this happen? Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't wipe them away. I don't know, Max. I don't know. I couldn't leave, and I couldn't stay. I felt like I was trapped. And when I met him, it was like something was finally waking up inside me. But it doesn't change what I've done to you. I'm sorry. I truly am. The words felt empty. Sorry. I had heard that word 1,000 times before, and now it just felt like another excuse, another attempt to justify the unthinkable. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the betrayal or the fact that she had already made up her mind. She wasn't just leaving me emotionally. She was leaving me physically, too. You're gone, aren't you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She didn't answer right away, but her silence spoke louder than any words could. I stood up, feeling the weight of her betrayal pressing down on me. I had to leave. I had to get out of this house. I can't do this anymore, I said, my voice breaking. I can't be here. I can't be with you. I turned to walk away, but as I reached the door, I heard her call out to me. Max, wait. But I didn't stop. The door slammed behind me, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. But the pain was just beginning. I didn't know where I was going when I left the house, but I couldn't stay there. The weight of her confession, the betrayal, was too much to bear. The world outside felt alien, like I had stepped out of a life I didn't recognize anymore. I walked aimlessly, not sure if I was looking for answers, solace, or just a place to escape. Every step I took felt like it echoed through my mind, replaying her words over and over. I've been seeing someone else. It felt like a nightmare, but I knew I was awake. I was living it. I ended up at a park, sitting on a bench, staring at nothing in particular. The air was cool, the sky a shade of gray, but it didn't matter. My mind was a blur of anger, confusion, and overwhelming sadness. How did we get here? What went wrong? I kept thinking back to everything. Our marriage, the years we spent building a life together. Was it all a lie? Had she been planning this all along? Or had it really just happened? The truth was, I didn't know. I didn't know anything anymore. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out, hoping it wasn't a message from her. I didn't know if I could handle hearing her voice right now. But it wasn't from Amelia. It was a message from my best friend, Chris. Hey man, where are you? You've been MIA. Call me. I stared at the screen for a moment. Chris. He was the one person who knew everything about me, who had always been there through thick and thin. I hadn't spoken to him in a few days, not since all of this started to unravel. Maybe it was time to talk to someone. Maybe it was time to stop pretending I could handle this alone. I dialed his number. Max, he answered, his voice familiar but laced with concern. Where the hell are you? I've been trying to reach you. I'm out, I replied, my voice hollow. I just needed some space. Space? Man, you haven't been answering your texts. What's going on? There was a pause. Wait. Is this about Amelia? I hesitated for a moment. I didn't want to drag Chris into this mess, but I couldn't keep it in any longer. Yeah, I said, my voice breaking. She's been seeing someone else. I don't even know what to do, Chris. I just found out. She admitted it tonight. She's been cheating on me. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. It's like my whole world is falling apart. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear Chris breathing, processing the shock of my words. Jesus, Max. I'm sorry, man. I had no idea. But listen to me, all right? You don't have to go through this alone. I'm here, okay? Let's meet up. You need to get this out. I didn't know why, but hearing his voice, hearing that he wasn't judging me, that he was there, made the tears finally fall. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to seem weak. But I had been holding it in for so long, trying to pretend that everything was okay, and now, with his words, with the reality of it all sinking in, I couldn't stop. "I'll be there in 20, he said. "Just stay put." I wiped my face with my sleeve and took a deep breath. I wasn't ready to face Amelia, and I wasn't ready to face this, but I had to. I couldn't keep running. When I met Chris at the bar later that night, he didn't ask for details right away. He just sat across from me and handed me a drink, not saying much, just letting the silence settle between us. I could feel the weight of his eyes on me as I sipped the drink, trying to find some small comfort in the burn of alcohol. "I didn't think it would happen like this," I said, my voice hoarse. "I didn't see it coming, Chris. I thought everything was fine. We were fine, at least, that's what I told myself. But now, I don't even know who she is anymore." Chris nodded, his face serious but understanding. "I get it, man. I really do. But you've got to stop blaming yourself for this. It's not your fault." I shook my head, but my mind was spinning. How could I not see it, though? How could I not see the signs? She changed. She stopped talking to me. She pulled away, and I didn't do anything about it. And then, to find out. "I know it sucks," Chris cut in, his voice steady. "But this isn't on you. She made her choice. You can't control what she does. You just have to focus on what's next. The road ahead is gonna suck for a while, but you'll get through it." I sat there, staring at my drink. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that there was something better waiting for me, that this wouldn't be the end. But the truth was, it felt like the end. It felt like everything I had known and loved had shattered in front of me, and I was left trying to pick up the pieces of a life that no longer existed. The rest of the night was a blur. We talked more, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't stop thinking about Amelia. What was she doing now? Was she with him? Was she already moving on? The thought of her with someone else made my stomach turn, but there was nothing I could do about it. She had made her choice, and I had to live with it. The next day, I went back to the house. The silence was even worse than before. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the floorboards under my feet, but there was nothing else. No laughter. No Amelia's voice calling my name. It felt like the house had been abandoned, even though she was still there. She was sitting in the living room when I walked in, staring out the window like she had been for the past few days. Her eyes didn't even shift when I entered the room. "Amelia," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "We need to talk." She didn't answer, but her posture stiffened slightly, as if she knew this conversation was inevitable. I stood there for a moment, gathering my thoughts, but I wasn't sure what to say anymore. The words felt like they were stuck in my throat, tangled with the anger and the hurt that had been building inside me. But I had to say something. I had to get closure, even if it was painful. "I can't do this anymore," I finally said, my voice breaking. "You've already checked out. You've already made your choice. And I can't be here pretending that everything is fine when it's not." Amelia turned her head slowly, her eyes meeting mine for the first time in days. "I know," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, Max, but I can't keep living this lie either." And with those words, I felt the last thread of hope unravel completely. The words hung in the air like a cloud of smoke, thick and suffocating. I couldn't believe how quickly everything had fallen apart. It felt like just yesterday, Amelia and I were planning our future together, sharing our dreams, and making promises. And now, all that was left was silence, a silence that swallowed every word I tried to say. I stood there, staring at her, trying to reconcile the woman I loved with the stranger sitting in front of me. She wasn't the same person anymore. Neither of us were. I took a step forward, my heart pounding in my chest, but no matter how much I wanted to close the gap between us, the distance only seemed to grow. There was something so final in the way she looked at me, something empty, like she had already closed the door on us long ago and was just waiting for me to catch up. "I don't know what happened, Max," she said softly, her voice almost apologetic but distant. "I don't know where we went wrong, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending." I wanted to shout at her, to demand an explanation, to make her understand how much she had hurt me, but I couldn't find the words. Everything I wanted to say felt like it would make things worse. What could I possibly say to someone who had already made up their mind, who had already left emotionally before she even walked away physically? Is he worth it? The question slipped out before I could stop it, and as soon as I said it, I regretted it. It sounded like an accusation, but I couldn't help it. The idea of her with someone else, someone who had taken my place in her life, made my blood boil. even though I knew I had no right to feel that way. Amelia's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something, guilt, maybe, or just the weight of knowing what she had done. She didn't answer right away, but I could see the answer in her eyes. I don't know, she finally whispered. I don't know if it's worth it. But I do know I can't stay here anymore, Max. I need to figure out who I am. I need to find myself. The pain that shot through my chest felt like a physical blow. I wanted to scream, to demand she explain why she couldn't find herself with me, with the life we had built together. But the truth was, I knew. I knew it wasn't just about another man. It was about her. It was about her own discontent, her own unhappiness, and I had been too blind to see it until now. I swallowed hard, trying to push the emotions down, but they clawed their way to the surface. So that's it then? I asked, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. You're just leaving? Amelia didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me, as if weighing her words, as if searching for some way to make this easier, even though I knew there was no easy way out. I don't want to hurt you, Max, she said finally. I never meant to hurt you, but I can't live a lie anymore. I can't pretend that I'm okay when I'm not. I nodded, even though it felt like my entire world was crashing down around me. I had been holding on to the hope that she would come back to me, that we could somehow fix this, but now, as she stood there, her eyes filled with something I couldn't understand, I knew it was over. Where are you going to go? I asked quietly, almost as if I were talking to myself. The thought of her leaving, of her walking out that door, made my heart ache in a way I didn't think was possible. I don't know yet, she replied. I just need to get away. I need to figure things out. The finality in her words struck me harder than anything else. This wasn't just a fight. This wasn't a temporary separation. She was leaving for good, and she wasn't coming back. I stood there, frozen, watching her. She looked so small, so fragile in that moment, like the weight of everything she had been carrying had finally become too much. But it didn't make it easier. It didn't make the pain go away. I can't do this, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I can't just watch you walk away. I'm sorry, Max, she said again, her voice breaking, but there was nothing left. The apology didn't mean anything anymore. It didn't fix what had been broken. She had already made her decision. I watched as she gathered her things, just a few bags, nothing much, and moved toward the door. Every step she took felt like it was ripping my heart out, piece by piece. I wanted to beg her to stay, to tell her everything could still be fixed. But I knew it was too late for that. She had already left me long before she packed her bags. She paused at the door, her hand resting on the doorknob, and turned back to look at me one last time. There was a sadness in her eyes, but it was the kind of sadness that comes when you know you're doing the right thing, even if it hurts. I'll always care about you, Max, she said quietly. But I can't stay here anymore. And with that, she walked out the door. The sound of the door closing behind her was the final nail in the coffin. It echoed in my mind, a harsh reminder that she was gone. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the door, as if expecting her to walk back in, to tell me it was all a mistake. But she didn't, and I knew she never would. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually, I collapsed onto the couch, feeling the weight of everything finally settle in. My marriage was over. The woman I had loved, the woman I thought I'd grow old with, was gone. And no matter how much I wanted to turn back time, no matter how much I wanted to fix what had been broken, I couldn't. I had no idea what was next for me, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back to the way things were. The life I had known was gone, and now, all I had was the empty space she had left behind. It's strange, you know, how life can feel like it's ending one moment, and then suddenly shift to something entirely unexpected the next. The weeks that followed Amelia's departure were the hardest of my life. I spent countless nights lying awake, replaying everything, wondering what I could have done differently, why things went the way they did. There were moments when I didn't know if I would make it through. The emptiness in the house was overwhelming, and the silence was deafening. For so long, all I wanted was to fix things, to somehow get her back, to make our life whole again. But as the days turned into weeks, I began to realize something important. I was still here. I was still breathing. I was still alive. And that meant something. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. But slowly, I began to pick up the pieces of my life. I forced myself to get out of bed every morning, even when I didn't want to. I took walks to clear my head. I started running again, something I had abandoned years ago. At first, it felt like I was just going through the motions, but with each step, with each run, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. I reached out to my friends, including Chris, who had been a constant source of support. They helped me more than they probably knew. I rediscovered parts of myself that I had lost along the way, hobbies I had abandoned, dreams I had pushed aside. I started writing again, something I had loved but neglected for years. It was therapeutic, putting my thoughts down on paper, allowing myself to process the pain without holding back. One day, about 2 months after Amelia left, I found myself standing on a hill overlooking the city. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over everything. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. It wasn't a peace that came from forgetting or pretending everything was fine. It was the peace that comes from acceptance. I had accepted that my marriage was over. I had accepted that I couldn't change the past. But I also realized that I wasn't defined by what had happened. I was still me. I was still capable of growth, of love, of happiness. The next day, I went to the coffee shop down the street, the one I used to visit every morning with Amelia. It felt strange to go there without her, but something told me I needed to. As I walked in, I saw a woman sitting at the counter, reading a book. She glanced up briefly, and for some reason, our eyes locked. There was something in that moment, something so familiar and yet completely new. I wasn't looking for anyone. I wasn't trying to fill the void left by Amelia. But in that instant, I felt a spark, a connection. Her name was Clara. She was kind, smart, and funny, and we spent the next few hours talking like we had known each other for years. It wasn't love at first sight, but it was something more subtle, more real. It was a connection that reminded me that life was full of possibilities, and even when one chapter ends, there's always a new one waiting to begin. I didn't rush into anything with Clara. I took my time, allowing myself to heal, to figure out what I really wanted. But as the months went by, we grew closer. She helped me rediscover the joy in the little things, and through her, I realized something important. Life wasn't about waiting for things to be perfect or for someone to save you. It was about finding joy in the journey, in the moments, in the growth. One evening, as we sat on the porch, sipping wine and watching the sunset, I realized how far I had come. I wasn't the same person I was when Amelia left, and that was a good thing. I had learned to let go of the past and embrace the present. The pain had faded, but the lessons it taught me would stay with me forever. I never thought I'd be here, you know? I said to Clara, smiling softly. I didn't think I'd ever be able to move on from all of it. She smiled back, her eyes warm and understanding. But you did. You found your way. I nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. Yeah, I did. And I think I'm finally ready for whatever comes next. In that moment, I realized that the end of my marriage wasn't the end of my story. It was just a chapter. And the best part? I was writing the next one. A new chapter, full of possibilities, full of hope, and full of a future that I was ready to embrace. Sometimes, it takes hitting rock bottom to find out what you're truly made of. And sometimes, it's in the darkest moments that we discover our strength. I had lost a lot, but I had also gained something invaluable. The knowledge that I could survive, I could grow, and I could start over. And that's exactly what I did. The future was unknown, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. Stay tuned for the next chapter of life.